Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to introduce a new company. This company, Wall Street is still pricing them as just a normal chip foundry, and I think there's a mistake because over the next 18 months, they are turning into something completely different. They are becoming a silicon photonics pure play, and I'm not just making this up, and I'm going to show you some numbers. And of course, this company is Tower Semiconductor. The first one is, see here, their revenue just more than double last year, and their customer are preparing for their capacity like 3 years out, right? And also they made a partnership with NVIDIA. All of them are very positive signal, and right now this stock just trade just as a analog foundry. And so I'm going to tell you what is just happening and why do I make some research on this company. So before I walk through the whole introduction of the company, I'm going to introduce something else. So because if you don't understand this kind of thing, you might not fully understand why Tower Semiconductor can be a great company. The first one is, from my perspective, I think AI right now is hitting into three physical wall. The first one is compute. So it means that how many operations a chip can do per second, right? That's NVIDIA is doing, right? And that's the reason why people is buying NVIDIA stock. And the second one is memory. Yeah. If you are not familiar with memory, you can check out my previous video. I have talked some video about the memory. Anyway, so the memory is just like how much data a chip can keep within reach, right? That's HBM. And that's the reason why you see the surge of the SK Hynix and SanDisk, right? They're really crazy up. And the third wall, it is like nobody is pricing yet. That is Interconnect. That is the Interconnect wall, which means that how fast the GPUs can talk to each other. And here is why it really matters. So I can give you some picture here. Here you can see that is what actually in the data center, right? You see there are some GPUs, and you use some cyber to connect each other. So let's come back here. Let's assume you have the NVIDIA's H100 chip, and it has 80 gigabytes, nothing more. But one modern AI model are really big, like a 70 billion parameter model. It needs around 140 gigabytes just to store its weight. And physically, it cannot fit on just one single GPU, right? Just one single GPU is not enough. Like you have to split like across two, 4, or 8 GPUs, and they need to coordinate constantly, right? And it gets worse with long contents, right? If you are using some AI agent tool like Cloud Code, like Codex, like OpenClaw, you can realize that a 1 million token query, it needs hundreds of gigabytes of working memory. Again, that's too big for any single GPU. So the content itself have to share like across multiple GPU, and every time the model generate the next token, those GPU, they have to exchange each other, right? And because of the reason why is I think it is related to the architecture of this advanced large language model. Let's take a GPT-5 or the Claude or the Gemini as example. They are using an architecture called mixture of experts. So it means that for each token, for each single token output, they have to need some different experts to talk across different GPUs, and every token they will every token's generation can trigger across GPU's communication. I think that's the root reason. So that's the reason why it's very important to understand the importance of the interconnect, right? And you can see this picture that's NVIDIA's GPU. We have talked that before. That's the HBM to store the KV cache to store the data. But if you would like to make the GPU to talk each other like this one, right? That's the GPU stored in the data center. You got so many GPU. You got so many NVIDIA's GPU. If you would like to need the AI to talk to each other, you have to make something to wire them together, right? Previously, people might use the copper. They use copper to wire them, but they think, okay, there's a physical limit between the copper to connect together. So right now they are using the optical. That's the reason why the silicon photonics is playing a more important role. You see here, you got the optical, right? And the GPUs them together, they can connect, right? That's super important. So if you really believe that, okay, the optical wall is real, the interconnect wall is real, and now you should ask the question like, okay, why do I buy, right? Maybe I can buy the Lumentum or Coherent or Broadcom or Marvell. Why do I need to buy the Tower Semiconductor? And I think the first answer is like the companies like Coherent or the Lumentum. They make the optical modules that get just plug into switches and GPUs. And right now, yeah, they are visible winner, but I think they are already in the headlights, right? Because we are trying to find something in hidden part, right? And so that's the problem. If they have been pricing, everybody already called them the Photonics company, and their multiple reflect that. And all that's left is their earnings momentum, right? And on the downstream side, where the optical modules get assembled, right? The optical modules get assembled, you got so many Chinese competitors, right? And if you compete with Chinese competitors, it means that your margins will compress over time. That's not good for you, right? And then the better place is to look is upstream. The silicon photonics wafer itself, the physical chip that has the laser and light channels built directly into it. Fewer than 10 foundries in the world have ever produced one at scale, and 3 companies, they control 60% of the contract. So the question becomes, which upstream foundry? And that is Tower. That's today's video's main character, Tower Semiconductor. So before we get to know why Tower is positioned so well, let me tell you what it actually is. So Tower Semiconductor is a specialty foundry. It doesn't chase TSMC's general business logic. Instead, it makes the chip most large foundry pass on analog, like the power management, the image sensor, and the silicon photonics. And this business is working because you can see this number. In 2025, the Tower Semiconductor, they post a record high 440 million quarter, and full year revenue was about 1.6 billion, and they got 220 million in net profit. The silicon photonics segment are more than just double. They in 2024 is around 106 million, but in 2025 it's about 228 million. And that signal actually caught my attention is this. over 70% of Tower's semiconductor silicon photonics capacity through 2028 is already reserved by your customer with prepayments, no forecast, no letters of intent, just cash on the table 3 years in advance. So why are customers lining up to prepay? And that's the real question. And I think there are three reasons. For Tower Semiconductor. So let's talk about that. So the first one I would call is physical scarcity. And let's say that fewer than 10 foundries in the world have ever produced silicon photonics at scale. Like, for example, building a production line, it may take you around 5 years and maybe even cost you close to $1 billion. That's not software. You can't scale it in just 1 quarter, in just like half year. And Tower Semiconductor is deploying over 900 million capacity to expand the silicon photonics capacity roughly 5 times over by late 2026. And the proof is real, right? As we said before, over 70% of their future capacity is already booked through 2028 with their customer prepayments. So customers are putting their cash down before a single wafer is produced. And that's not hope, that's conviction. Their customer believe them, right? And the second one is QD lock-in. That's I said in my channel before, in the memory topic, I really focus on like the ecosystem. I think ecosystem is really important. And I think right now, this is one of the most underappreciated mode Tower Semiconductor has. So here is what most people can realize about silicon photonics. It doesn't work like the normal chip manufacturing. So let's say when Broadcom, they want TSMC to make a regular chip, right? The Broadcom, they might write a digital design and then send the file and TSMC manufacturers, and that's it, right? If the Broadcom, they would like to switch from TSMC to Samsung, if they want, they can do it, right? But silicon photonics is nothing like that. The behavior of an optical chip, how light moves through it, how fast, with what loss, depends on extremely precise parameters, right? And the exact width of the light channel down to 15 nanometers, and the exact material composition, the exact stress in the silicon. That is ecosystem, which means that the customer's design isn't really portable. It's physically bonded to the specific foundry it was developed on. Let's say when Broadcom developed like a 1.6 terabit optical chip with Tower Semiconductor, they spent 18 to 24 months to jointly like turning the design to Tower Semiconductor's process, and they do multiple tests for the chips. They invest millions or tens millions dollars in just 1 quarter, and by the time it works, the design actually is embedded in the Tower Semiconductor's process. So moving that design to TSMC isn't a vendor switch, it's a rebuild, right? That's a rebuild. It costs you a lot. So from the ground up, it can cost you another 2 years, and it can cost you another like tens of millions, right? So normal chip fabrication is like renting a standard kitchen. You can take your receipts anywhere, but silicon photonics, it's like developing a signature sauce with a specific chef over 2 years, right? That sauce can only be made in the kitchen with that chef. You are not going anywhere, right? So I think this is the deepest moat Tower Semiconductor has. And last one is, I would call it the strategic neutrality. So let's say that TSMC is NVIDIA's closest partner, because every NVIDIA's GPU runs through TSMC's packaging, right? And And TSMC is also building their own silicon photonics platform called COUP, the COUP. But now imagine you are Broadcom. Broadcom competes directly with NVIDIA in data center networking chips, right? So will you have your most sensitive optical design, your Photonics IP to NVIDIA's closest manufacturing partner? I think the answer is of course not. So that's the reason why right now there are more and more people they would like to buy Coherent and Lumentum stock, because like Tower Semiconductor, they make no product of itself, so they know there are no competing design, and there are no strategic conflicts. It's only jobs, right? It's the only job is just to manufacture what customer give it. So that neutrality is structural, and TSMC cannot replace it without giving up this like NVIDIA's relationship, right? And after that, we are going to get back to the number thing. So let's put this advantage together, these three modes together, and let's see some interesting financial profile. So silicon photonics revenue went from 100 million in 2024, and in 2025 it was around 228 million. So with the 5-time capacity expansion, right? By the late 2026, and 70% of it has already sold, right? That's what we have told before, and that would put silicon photonics at roughly 50% of Tower Semiconductor's total business. In 2024, it just 7%, so 7% to 50%, and here's why the number really matters. Because Tower Semiconductor's analog business runs on gross margin around like 24%, right? And silicon photonics run at around 60%. So as the silicon photonics take over the revenue mix, the gross margin can move up a lot. You are not just growing revenue, you are growing the revenue at structural higher margins. So growing revenue, expanding margins, and a multiple re-rating, they are all stacking to that together, right? That is the reason why I pay attention to this company, and I think it would be a Davis double, right? The EPS up, the multiple up, all stacking together. And then we are moving to this topic. So which links to the company in this industry, like why do we choose Tower Semiconductor, not Coherent, not Lumentum, not TSMC? So as I said before, the Coherent and the Lumentum, I think a lot of people have buy their stock, and in some times, or we can say that they have been like a little bit pricing, right? So for the rest of the time, it's really important to watch out their execution and their earning. And TSMC and the global foundries, the problem of them is scale. So silicon photonics is just 1% of TSMC's business, and even it grows 10 times, it doesn't meaningfully move $1 trillion market cap. So Tower Semiconductors just sit in a very unique position. They are very small, right? They are small enough that the silicon photonics can reshape the whole company. They are really pure. They are a pure player, right? So I think if you would like to exposure to the optical world, the Tower Semiconductor might be the cleanest bet on the board. And of course, let's get back to this topic, the risk. So I think there are 5 risks or 5 things we have to watch out. The first one is TSMC's new platform is called COUP. I think it's not a big problem. It's a little bit overstated. Like for some people say that, okay, TSMC might becoming another dominant in this area. I think they still need time to catch up Tower Semiconductor's leader position. And the second one is the global foundries. I think global foundry, this company, is actually the real competitors to the Tower Semiconductors. So we have to watch out their balance sheet, and we have to watch out their financial situation. And the third risk is the copper itself. So because right now our theory is like, okay, wow, the copper right now cannot solve the problem of the connectivity of the GPUs, like how to communicate with different GPUs. But maybe in like years later, there's some new technology to bring copper back. But right now, the answer is no. You can just use optical to solve this problem. And the next thing is the execution itself, right? The Tower Semiconductor, they have to prove that they have the good execution. And the last one is geopolitics. And because the Tower Semiconductor lands in Israel, so I'm not sure how big the impact it has to the Tower Semiconductors. So overall, these are the 5 risks I think we have to watch out. So that's it. That's today's videos. Of the introduction of the Tower Semiconductors, and I think it's a good company and it's a good industry we have to watch out. So what do you think of this company, and what do you think which AI war is the most underappreciated? Is compute, is memory, or interconnect, or power? And if you like this video, please subscribe and like, and also you can drop some comment. Let's discuss together. And that's it. See you in next video. Bye.